everyone, I'm Michelle from Elephant Communications in Taipei. Today, I'd like to discuss with you about face. What is face, and why is it when we're in a Chinese cultural environment, is it so important to try to keep our friend, professor, co-worker, client, or manager's face? And how do we go about it when our cultural values are so different? I'm going to begin by sharing an example to give you a little clearer idea of what this means and how important it is. Okay, here we go. So quite a few years back, I was working as a manager for an e-learning platform. We were selling our product, our service, to different companies in Taipei and the Greater China region. And sometimes I would accompany our sales team as well as the CEO to visit the other companies. On this particular trip, we were going to a company that I was quite familiar with. And when we came back, the five of us who went thought it had gone really well. So a few days later, we were a little surprised as well as disappointed to hear that we hadn't gotten the account. So in our group chat, the CEO asked, "Oh, what went wrong, or what could have been done better?" So me, coming from a more direct culture, as well as a culture where employees are paid, expected to give feedback and offer suggestions for improvement, I went right ahead and I took out my phone and I wrote a constructive message to answer the CEO's question, what we could do better. So after I wrote the message, I was looking forward to some group discussion and thinking about in the future what our next step would be. So I was very surprised a few hours, 5 hours the next morning when everyone had clearly read the message, but there was no response either from the team members or from the CEO. So I asked one of the team members who had spent many years studying in the US what had happened. And he said, "Oh, Michelle, it's probably better next time if you don't directly respond to the CEO in that way." So I asked more and I found out that the CEO's question had been more rhetorical. And by me telling him what could be done better, I was helping him to lose face. Of course, inadvertently, but nevertheless, it happened. So the result was that in the future, the CEO no longer directly communicated with me about anything. So he would go through other colleagues and they would communicate to me, which was fine. I understood that I had made a mistake and I endeavored to adapt my behavior. So this story I have used in many trainings and have discussed it with clients who are based here. And when I tell the story, sometimes I get a few giggles and everybody gives me the same answer when I ask them, "So, what was my mistake? What could I have done better?" They all say, "You should have avoided to answer him in a group setting. First of all, you were not the most senior member in that wall. There were other people who were more senior than you. And also, if you wanted to really give some suggestion, you should have gone to see the CEO first. It should have been face-to-face without other people around, and you could have probably begun first by complimenting him, by telling him how excellent it was that we had the opportunity and how wonderful business was going. And then maybe either he would ask your opinion, at which time you could give some constructive feedback, or maybe if the atmosphere was good, you could mention some suggestions, some constructive suggestions for improvement. So I learned this, and I really put it into my cultural thinking, and I have definitely adjusted my course of communication, which has helped to build my global competence. So these small little differences in how we communicate can, in this case, make a big difference. So if you are working or studying in a Chinese cultural environment, there are a few tips that I can offer you. Always think about how I can keep my coworker or classmate or teacher's face. This is very important. And there are many situations where it applies. For example, paying the bill. If somebody has offered to treat everybody, and if there is an insistence on paying for your lunch or the meal, please let them. And then you can make the same offer for next time. This is one example. The second example is giving feedback. If you need to give feedback to a coworker or to someone more senior than you, be careful about being too direct. Also be careful about saying no too directly. Think about maybe if you do need to give feedback or to reject, say no, maybe you can go through a third party. Going through a third party is extremely helpful. So whether it's about giving feedback or negotiating or socializing, trying to help to keep someone's face will get you very far. So if you have your own stories and experiences, please leave them here below. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you have any questions, please do get in touch. And let's continue our intercultural journey. And here's saying goodbye to you from Elephant Communications in Taipei.